user-centered or visitor-centered approaches as far as the physical interaction with the museum space is concerned are truly fundamental. This now has become an international trend. However, at the Uffizi, already in the 1950s, the then director Roberto Salvini, in fact, was the first to implement a visitor-centered approach, which was quite radical at the time. Strangely enough, it was very well received at the time, but then after a few years, it was almost forgotten, and we got back to it really with a delay of over 60 years, and were able to pick up where Roberto Salvini left off. The user-centered approach in terms of digital technology, in fact, is something that fully integrates with this, and something that in the meantime, in fact, came about with all the new technologies that there are. Obviously, both these experiences on site and online need to be integrated. That is really fundamental. That's also the reason why, for us as a museum, VR is certainly interesting, but what is really exciting are the perspectives of AR, because what we do already have is some real-world equivalents, such as the labels which we have for every painting, for every sculpture, and which we would love to have also for all the frescoes, but if we had it for all the frescoes, there would be no space left for works of art. We would need so many labels, so therefore we already have a situation which we can only solve with an AR approach. That is certainly a perspective we're working on, particularly these days, as far as all sorts of challenged visitors are concerned. Again, technology gives us huge opportunities that did not exist before. But again, it cannot all be done with technology. I mean, the human interaction is fundamental. We need to continue that. In fact, we founded a department of accessibility and cultural mediation, which offered almost 200 special tours or workshops, actually more workshops, because this is all very, very interactive last year. And this year there is going to be an increase in these activities. In fact, I mean, this has been a very important part of our strategy and continues to be so. A role of the newly founded Department of Accessibility and Cultural Mediation is that to fully integrate all sorts of visitors and users that are not the average Joe, basically. And of course, the average Joe is a total construct, does not exist. Every visitor is different from each other. And, but we cannot have, even today, a cohesive group in our minds of visitors, people who have studied, have university degrees or so. That's not our audience anymore, and it hasn't been for many decades, actually. So in order to avoid the risk of complete commercialization, which is there, of course, and going into an entire superficiality of any approach, or in other words, in order to avoid that the Uffizi, this great museum, one of the greatest museums in the world, is downgraded to a simple attraction and nothing else. It is important really to open up and to think of a variety of approaches and a very wide range of potential approaches. And that means people with different cultural backgrounds, people with different social backgrounds, people with different educational backgrounds, to all take them not just into consideration, but to take them seriously. And that is really the key to everything. And again, here technology might help because we can offer a much better tailored experience to whoever comes to us thanks to technology and that we have done, for instance, now, even in more traditional ways, for instance, publishing. Until 2 years ago, basically all the publications by the Uffizi were published in Italian. Once in a while, a translation into English. Now, last year, for the first time, we had publications in 8 different languages, and we had publications in English, 9 different books which we published, and exhibition catalogs which we published in English. We had 2 publications in Chinese, for instance, and we see that we become more and more global. We have to react to that, and only that way we can ensure a in-depth experience, learning experience, also cultural experience, and then go even further, because after the experience, in order to get further, the next step would in fact be that to kindle exchanges, and in fact not just an experience, not just a one-way communications, but truly 2-way, 3-way, 4-way communications. We implemented workshops, we implemented in fact a series of lectures with discussion, and it's important that the lecture is only 50% of it, the discussion is the other half of it, and experience of the works of art. So we actually bring the work of art that we're talking about or that we're discussing about into the lecture theater. And then again, we also we film this, we put this online in order to reach a truly global audience. And so we try really to integrate the digital world with the material one. We also, of course, have lots of programs for that kindle exchange of and get people to know each other. To give you an example, last year, our second most visited exhibition was Islam and Florence, an exhibition with over 600,000 visitors. And for this, we had workshops for children to learn Arabic calligraphy, and we had tours for children who have Arab as their first language. Off the exhibition, we collaborated closely with the Islamic communities here in Florence to offer this in a way that people who might live in the same building but never talk to one another, I mean, here, starting with the children, they learn about each other's cultures. And that has been a huge success, in fact, and we're continuing with this this year with specific offers for new citizens as well as such that have been around for a while, such as the Chinese community in Prato, which is the largest Chinese community in Italy and one of the largest outside of China, indeed. And we're working with them to develop similar programs as well. What is crucial, even using technologies, is always to keep the human element at the center, and I think that is important, building a platform to make sure that it's not technology-driven, but it's really driven by the human need to communicate, to exchange ideas, and to learn.